Ever heard of students cheating on exams? Of course, that's nothing new. But turning it into $1 million heist across borders? Now that's genius or pure madness. This is Binge Recap delivering a crime thriller drama, and yes, spoilers lie ahead. So beware and take care. The movie opens with a quiet tension. Lynn and her father, Mr. Kong, sit across from Ms. Walsh, the stern principal of Exton Academy, a prestigious, top-tier school built for the elite. Mr. Kong does most of the talking, proudly boasting about Lynn's academic brilliance. He dreams big, hoping Lynn will be the first in their family to make it to college. But Ms. Walsh isn't moved by speeches. She turns to Lynn and gently asks what she wants. Lynn, calm but sharp, explains their situation. Yes, the school is excellent. Yes, she wants to be here. But the tuition, the transportation costs, it's not something her family can afford. Her tone isn't emotional. It's calculated, clear and logical. And Ms. Walsh is impressed. So impressed, she waves away the entire cost. Lynn will study for free. That night, back at home, Lynn does what brings her peace, playing the piano. Her mother taught her once, and the melody fills their modest home with something rare, which is joy. Her father, glowing with pride, surprises her with fresh school supplies. It's a quiet, beautiful moment. Over dinner, Lynn opens up. She tells her father she wants to pursue music, to apply for a prestigious program in New York. But Mr. Kong shuts it down. "You're going further than your mother and I ever did," he says. "Stay focused. MIT is your future, not distractions." Lynn goes quiet, her dream was just dismissed like it never mattered. And from that moment, something inside her begins to shift. It's Lynn's junior year, and her first day at Exton feels like stepping into a whole new world. During registration, she meets Grace, a bubbly, talkative girl who instantly takes Lynn under her wing. Grace shows her around the school, guiding her through the maze of lockers and class schedules. Later, when Grace struggles with a math problem, Lynn casually helps her solve it. No big deal for someone like her. But for Grace, it's a lifeline. She pleads with Lynn to become her tutor, explaining that if her GPA drops below 3.0, she'll lose her shot at a huge acting audition. Lynn hesitates. She's not sure about the idea. But when Grace defends her against a group of mocking students shortly after, Lynn decides to say yes. Then comes the midterm exams. Lynn moves through her paper like it's a game she's already mastered, quick, calculated and precise. But when she looks up, she sees Grace, frozen in confusion, struggling to answer a single question. In that moment, something clicks. Lynn races through the rest of her test, flips her eraser and scribbles down the answers on its surface. She glances at Grace, giving her a signal. Silent and understood. She slips the eraser into her shoe, then subtly pushes it toward Grace. Just then, the teacher rises for a routine check. The tension stiffens. The girls stay calm, shifting just enough to avoid suspicion. After the teacher passes, Grace nudges the shoe back, but it doesn't quite make it. It stops halfway, still in the open. Without a flinch, Lynn gets up, slides her foot into the shoe, and walks straight to the front to submit her paper. They finally get their results, which Grace got a 3.4 and Lynn got a 4.2. Grace takes Lynn to go celebrate at her boyfriend's house. The trio are at the pool, where Pat is swimming while Lynn and Grace sit by the edge. While in the pool, Pat reveals he knows how Lynn helped Grace during the exam. Lynn is surprised that Grace told him, but Pat continues, saying he knows she's on a scholarship and understands money is tight for her. He tells her that if she helps him, Grace and 4 of his friends pass their tests, they'll each pay her $200 per paper. Lynn is skeptical about it because she doesn't want to do anything that might put her scholarship at risk, so Pat adds that his father is on the Juilliard board and he could put in a word for her if she agrees. Lynn doesn't say anything, she just sits there silently. At home, while playing the piano, Lynn gets an idea. The next day at school, she and the other students paying for the cheat service are alone in the music class, where she teaches them the cheat code. She would tap her fingers on the desk. Different patterns for different answers, and anyone she misses they would have to fill in themselves. The system works perfectly, getting Grace her audition and Pat a brand new car. In return, they both surprise Lynn with a gift. Lynn records and uploads her video for the Juilliard audition, and uses the money she earned to buy gifts for her dad and help pay the bills at home. Grace tells Lynn to expand the service, but before Lynn can respond, a teacher walks in and calls her to the principal's office. Nervous, she makes her way there, only to find another student, Bank, already waiting. The principal informs them about a special scholarship that grants full tuition to any college of their choice. Every school is allowed to nominate 2 students to compete for it, and both Lynn and Bank have been selected to represent Exton. Lynn continues her annual ritual in remembrance of her mother. Meanwhile, Bank meets a couple of guys hanging around in front of his mother's store and politely asks them to leave. When they ignore him, he pretends to call 911. The moment they leave, it's revealed he never actually dialed. The next day, a student named Chapin begs Bank to help him out with the exam, but Bank refuses. Chapin then casually brings up something about a piano cheat service, but quickly brushes it off like it was nothing. Still trying to convince him, he offers Bank $300 to let him copy during the exam, but Bank still refuses. During the semester exam, Bank notices Chapin trying to copy off Lynn but chooses not to say anything. He also notices that he has 2 exam papers and quietly alerts the teacher. The teacher explains that because they've been noticing similar answers in past tests, they've now distributed 2 different versions of the exam. Once Bank finishes his paper, he goes to submit. Meanwhile, with time running out, Lynn realizes she has the same problem, 2 sets. She rushes to finish the first one and signals the code to the rest of the students with set 1. As they get up to submit, using the distraction, she quickly switches to set 2 with Chapin and starts solving it. The teacher starts counting down the minutes, tension builds. As soon as she finishes, Lynn signals again and begins tapping out the answers for set 2. But time runs out mid-code, and the teacher instructs everyone to put their pencils down. Lynn keeps tapping, desperate to finish. The tension peaks when the teacher slams her desk, warning her to stop. Luckily, the others have already written their final answers. As Lynn gets up to leave, the teacher suddenly calls her back, heart pounding. He tells her she forgot to write her name. Relieved, she writes it down and walks out. Outside, Pat tells Lynn he's got more clients interested in piano lessons. Just then, the names of Lynn and Chapin are called to report to the principal's office. Inside, Bank reports that he saw Chapin cheating off Lynn during the exam, but before anything can escalate, the teacher walks in and says it would be pointless since both students had different sets of exams. Ms. Walsh apologizes to Lynn and dismisses her, but just as she's about to leave, she calls her back and asks why the answers to both sets of questions are written on her paper. That's when Bank realizes Lynn is the one running the piano service. Ms. Walsh calls in Lynn's dad and he pleads on her behalf, asking for forgiveness. Ms. Walsh agrees to give Lynn a second chance, but it comes with consequences. Her scholarship to the school and college is revoked. Back at home, Lynn's father finds her notes and plans to apply to Juilliard instead of MIT. Devastated, he tells her to return the money and gifts she received. He also says Ms. Walsh will change her class schedule so she won't be in the same classes again, and orders her to stay away from her friends. It's senior year and Lynn is worried about her father, who's struggling to balance driving for Uber, keeping the laundromat running, and dealing with rising school fees. Out of the blue, Grace calls and asks her to come to Pat's house, saying there's something important she needs to see. At the diner, Grace introduces Lynn to Pat's parents, Ted and Eliza. The couple warmly praises Lynn, saying they know she's the real reason behind Pat's sudden improvement in school. Despite all their efforts, Pat's grades had never gone up, until Lynn stepped in. Now, Ted wants Pat to score high on his SATs and get into Columbia University. He tells Lynn he's willing to give her anything in return, even sponsor her dream to attend music school in New York. Lynn is touched by the offer but also determined to finish high school without any more trouble. Just as she's about to say no, Grace quickly jumps in, saying Lynn is just too excited and will get back to them soon. Later, Grace tries to convince Lynn to join the SAT cheating plan, reminding her that if it works, they could all end up living in New York together. But Lynn is hesitant, believing it's impossible to cheat on an international exam. Then while watching TV, she comes across a segment about time zone differences, and suddenly she gets an idea. Lynn proposes a bold plan: fly to Philadelphia to take the SAT early, since it's 3 hours ahead of Seattle. She'll memorize the answers and send them during the break to Pat and Grace, who will still be in Seattle by then. But to pull this off, she needs $180,000 in total, including $70,000 for her dad. Pat is shocked by the amount, but he knows he has no choice if he wants this to work. Meanwhile, Bank is on his way to prepare for his scholarship interview, when he gets attacked by thugs, destroying his chances of making it. With no time to waste, Lynn and Pat begin training the selected paying students, using a coded pencil system to mark answers, from the thickest shade to the thinnest representing A, B, C, and D. Lynn installs an encrypted messaging app on everyone's phones and sets up a communication system through a flip phone to stay under the radar. Lynn meets with Bank at his mother's Nigerian cafe. She apologizes for what happened, knowing there's no way to get his scholarship interview back. She then offers him a role in the heist. Bank declines, saying he's worked too hard to risk everything now. Lin respects his decision but leaves him a card, just in case he changes his mind. Later, at their hideout, Bank shows up, ready to join the plan. Lin suggests they register at a low-security school in Philadelphia, but Bank has a better idea. He recommends signing up as foreign students in the US so they don't have to use their real names. They'll use a real school but with fake identities and convincing passports. To keep her father from being suspicious, Lin lies and tells him she's going to Philadelphia for a quiz slam competition. The team begins practicing how to memorize and transmit answers under pressure. During planning, Bank asks what his cut is in all of this and he's offered $150,000. Grace provides fake passports and a stash of cash for the trip. The team begins rehearsing denial strategies, how to act innocent if they get caught. During a run-through, Pat gets too into character and accidentally mentions how Bank was beaten and dumped in a dumpster. The room goes still and Bank's expression darkens. He never told anyone about being thrown in the dumpster. That means Pat must have staged the assault to manipulate him into joining the plan. Bank gets furious and lunges at him. He quits on the spot and storms out. Lin doesn't know what just happened and she walks away too, hurt and confused. But just as he's about to board the bus, he changes his mind and goes back. His voice steady and he tells Lin, "I've worked too hard and lost too much to back out now. I'm in." Lin nods and promises to protect him. And together they finalize the plan. In Philadelphia, the crew hits a bump. The exam location has been changed to a top-tier university with tighter security than expected. They hesitate, but decide to push forward. On exam day, they sneak into the restrooms and stash their flip phones in the toilet tanks. Section 1 begins and everything runs like clockwork. They memorize the answers, slip into the restroom, and Lin sends hers out. But Bank holds back, demanding another $100,000 before he sends his part. Grace negotiates, sending $50,000 up front, promising to sort out the rest later, and Bank finally uploads the answers. Pat and Grace convert the data into coded pencils and distribute them to the students. But just as Section 2 ends, a curveball hits. They aren't given a break and Section 3 begins immediately. Now, they have to memorize double the answers back to back. During the short break before Section 4, both Lin and Bank rush to the bathroom. But Lin is stalled by a long line outside the stalls, her anxiety climbing by the second. Inside, Bank is already transmitting answers, his hands shaking as he types. Suddenly, a loud bang rattles the door with security demanding entry for a search. Panic floods his face. Desperate, Bank scrambles to finish sending the codes. In his rush, he jolts up and the ceramic tank lid slips, shattering against the floor with a deafening crack. He fumbles with the flip phone trying to flush it, but it gets stuck and the banging grows louder. Meanwhile, Lin finally makes it in but gets intercepted by an examiner. Her heart nearly stops, but she's prepared. Calmly, she slips her flip phone into her shoe, feigning innocence. From the corner of her eye, she sees security interrogating Bank while other students are forced into random searches. Thinking fast, Lin veers past a water dispenser. With a subtle motion, she slides the phone inside the water tank casing, hiding it perfectly. Now trapped and unable to sneak her phone back, Lin feels the walls closing in. The answers for Sections 2 and 3 are still in her head, but time is slipping. Her hands tremble as she pulls out a scrap of paper and starts scribbling the answers before diving into Section 4. Meanwhile, in another room, Bank sits stiff under the glare of two exam officials, warning they'll call the Nigerian embassy to expose him. Back in the exam hall, Lin is drowning in numbers and letters. Then instinct kicks in. She shuts her eyes and pictures playing her keyboard. The answers play like a rhythm in her head, her fingers twitching as if across invisible keys. The chaos fades, replaced by melody, and now she's able to anchor the codes in her memory. At the same time, Bank finally seizes an opening. He pleads for a chance to finish his exam, arguing he'll cooperate afterward. The security, not fully convinced but unwilling to create a scene, release him. After memorizing the answers, Lin recalls their plan B. She puts a pencil down her throat, she throws up and uses that opportunity to leave. Back at the hideout, Pat and Grace grow desperate as students wait. Security uncovers Bank's fake ID and sends alerts out. Lin retrieves the flip phone and overhears guards closing in. She dodges through hallways while Bank runs but gets spotted. Outside, Lin begins transmitting the answers, but security sees her. She runs, still typing, until she trips, her phone sliding under a car in traffic. Without hesitation, she dives, grabs it just before the tires roll and sends all the answers. Mission successful. Grace and the gang celebrate, hailing Lynn and Bank for pulling off the mission. Later on, Lynn quickly learns the New York promise was a lie. Feeling betrayed, she regrets ever helping them. Soon, the news breaks. Authorities expose the scandal and all exam results are cancelled. Racked with guilt, Lynn confides in Bank, saying she wants to turn herself in. But Bank refuses, revealing to her he's undocumented and can't take the risk. Determined to protect him, Lynn confronts Pat's father. She reveals she has proof of Pat's role in the scam and the staged assault. She demands that he funds restitution for the affected students and helps secure Bank's immigration papers. Pat's father slyly asks if she wants a hand getting into Juilliard, but Lynn refuses. With a smirk, he tells her she can always come work for him if music doesn't pan out. So remember, cheating might get you ahead for a while. But in the end, the real price is always waiting to be paid. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories like this. Now tell me in the comments, do you think Lynn was a victim of the system or just as guilty as the rest? And if you were in her shoes, would you risk it all for the money? Let's argue a bit.